By and large, urban design's philosophy is all about understanding the sense of place and the city itself. Sustainable architecture is not just the future, it's the only way. Firstly, architecture, as per my understanding, is in today's context all about understanding a sense of place. And how does a place belong and what kind of projects really make the sense of place. It has to be part of the context, either by standing out or by merging in. And I think essentially in the array of my projects, particularly when I'm doing transformation projects, cladding materials hold a very strong role in terms of giving a new skin to the building. I think skin essentially is the interface between the outside and the inside. And I think in the way a skin design allows to make a signature project is very important. By and large, urban design's philosophy is all about understanding the sense of place and the city itself. I think the character of every Indian city is very unique. And I think as practitioners in emerging Indian context, and particularly my playing field being in Calcutta, it's very important for me to think as my architectural inserts which relate to both the program and how it responds to the immediate surroundings. In certain cases, we can make it isolated, but still at the end of the day, it needs to fit in. Sustainable architecture is not just the future, it's the only way ahead. It's not an option anymore. I think every day in the news you hear something about climate change, and this change of climatic conditions are largely related to many of our human interventions. And I think what you have to realize is that all our individual contribution is almost like a drop in the ocean to contribute towards a certain larger goal. So, I mean, there are a lot of simple methods which are listed down in SDGs of UN's or the green building codes, and there are ways in which one can simplify this and not make it very complex, but at the end of the day, follow it for every project, even if it's a green certified project or non-green certified project, where you are looking into, for example, I'll probably tell you one of my upcoming projects we've designed the building around a courtyard which creates a microclimate. And we have screens and louvers and sensibilities which allow water reuse. There's a bit of solar because I think the solar context in Kolkata is not that much, but still there's a bit of solar. And I think using the right fluids in air conditioning systems or using paint codes in the right way, which are all sort of green certified, becomes useful. So I think it's not only the macro design decisions, it's also about micro specifications. And I think adaptive reuse of buildings is also another very strong vertical that I'm working on. And I think building needs to be upcycled at some level. And I think in a whole body of work, apart from my new projects, I actually deal a lot of conservation work and I'm a professor of conservation architecture in CEPT Ahmedabad. So as an adjunct faculty, I'm looking into repairing, retrofitting cities, and that's not only by making new projects, but by actually detailing, crafting, transforming the facade of old projects. I mean, not every time with a particular material, but the material needs to make sense. And sometimes projects, ugly projects maybe, which have not really aligned to the context, can be retrofitted. And so this is what I called conservation, restoration or revitalisation of projects which are post 70s. So there's nothing, it's very banal at some level. It's sort of quasi-modernism, but not in the most purest form. And I think some of them have infrastructure-wise or service-wise grayed out. So there is a huge market, I think, and I think I have taken some sort of bold leadership roles in redefining projects where services, its use, its skins, its windows, its facades, its various colors and sensitivities can be transformed in a way that you give it a very strong sense of purpose, in a new life, and make it still not break the building down and huge increase carbon footprints to unnecessary extents. So of course you do what I would call a surgical intervention of facades also. In certain projects of my heritage projects, where I would actually maintain the heritage character by documenting the sort of the historical content, that's of course pure conservation or pure sort of heritage revitalization. But there is this whole space, what you do with these buildings in the late 60s, 70s, which are sort of very banal, nothing much to talk about, but which sort of occupy a large functional section of our Indian cities. And so to make sense of those buildings, which are lively buildings, which needs some sense of rejuvenation with reprogramming, rethinking, repurposing, maybe in certain cases relooking at spaces. And I think these sort of surgeries make these buildings then stand out for another, let's say, 50 years. So that's important, and I think that's sort of my take on sustainability at multiple levels. Functionality is always very important, and it's always going to precede aesthetics, because if you're a strong designer and if you understand how to crack a problem, any function can be, unless there is something which is really not working out, that I would probably definitely make the functions happen first and then work everything out around that. Unless there is something which is very difficult and out of place, then I would obviously rethink the brief. And I think as a practice, we definitely have, the last 20 years, in fact, created a body of work, and through my book, which I recently spoke about at MIT and at University of Florida, and even as a faculty at CEPT Ahmedabad, I feel that Kolkata as a city, which is really my working laboratory in this context today, is new buildings which adopt the style of modern tropical architecture or classical colonial or adaptive reuse, which is, we don't really distinguish whether it's interior project or a facade transformation project or a new project with a greenfield site, but you kind of make projects with a certain philosophy where clients' aesthetics also starts getting adjusted to your sensibilities. And I think it's sort of, client sensibilities often is pretty evolved. You just need to doctor it and tweak it at the right points to sort of align them. And I feel that with those in principled approach in design, a lot can be changed. And I think in that case, whether it is interior project, or if it's an adaptive reuse, or whether it's a skin development, or whether it's a surgical intervention of a building, or of course new projects, all of this collectively make our contribution towards sustainable architecture. In terms of stylistics, it sort of makes modern tropical charactered inserts, sometimes in a more modern classical way, and sometimes a little more modern minimal way. I mean, we sort of try to have a few design tools at hand which to figure out what fits in where the best. So Aludecor is it's one of the better ways to screen a facade. I think the implementation of every material is very important. So however good the material is, I always insist my contractors and agents from your esteemed company to ensure that implementation qualities are met with dry joints or open joints. So the sealants are dealt with in a better way. Maintaining of that sealants and the quality is very important, because otherwise it can just completely spoil the facade. And I think despite it being a leading brand, I think it's important to, obviously that's a choice that designer has to make, to use the right amount of the facade with a product and the kind of choice. So I think there's an art involved, of course, apart from the engineering, and I think that sets good design from poor designs. So I mean, that's a given, I guess. I've used it as a good product which I have used in multiple ways. I think in the Bhawanipur Education Society project, which was transforming a very prestigious institution, Aludecor was extensively used to create some facade dynamics. It's a young, vibrant college. It was falling apart, so I think the net result is apart from it being a well-featured project nationally, it became a magnet for students to be excited about coming back to school. So that's the biggest success. We are using that in the Birla High School project. We are using that in the BISFAM project. BISFAM belonged to a credible and a very renowned Kolkata business family who has now decided and been able to brand themselves nationally. So this facility largely is their global headquarters and their sort of residence. They didn't want to move out because it is located in the prime area of the city. So I guess by doing a few tweaks, the facade became very important because it's in a very important crossing. And I thought that it's on the street, so it's an old building, so there is no setback. So it's, so I think Aludecor is a sturdy material, and particularly I use the patina, wabi-sabi and the lower levels, which kind of gave and anchored the building down. I've used a bunch of other products to sort of pick it up. I felt that it sort of then gives a very strong visual base to it, and it's worked wonders because I guess I keep getting good calls and it's a happy client at the end of the day. No, I think, see, everybody has a place. I mean, it's not about this is better or that is worse. It's important that architects use it wisely, it's implemented correctly, and it's of course there's a competition internally, but case of BISFAM, I used 3 facade products and in the appropriate way. So I could not have used the other product in place of Aludecor, and Aludecor does not fit in where something else has been used. So I think it's appropriate use of materials in the right sensibility. I have also used this wabi-sabi product in multiple other places. Some of them are in the design stage, which kind of brings out. It's got a earth tone palette to it, and I encourage Aludecor to keep innovating on their finishes, which will make more sense. It's going to have a regional context to a project to it, because sometimes when you look at these old banal buildings, it might just need a facelift, and it's a simple way to use your product wisely, and then I think you will get a better looking building at least.
ACP gives us a very wide spectrum in our field of designing, whether it's industrial or interior. Being the fact that it's recycled, it's also has a great impact for the society and the environment, and seeing that the wide range it offers in the field of colors and textures and shapes, and it does blooms up as a great material for designing for all interior designers and architects.
ACP panel just gives a new dimension to the complete setup, and it acts as a protective layer to the wall also from the weather things, be it the rain or the sunshine. So it acts as a protective layer and also gives a variety of design options, like we can add wooden finish to it or any other finish, but those materials which might not be as good in all weather conditions, ACP gives that added advantage of weather to it, and it's also sustainable in nature.
I feel that ACP can be like a futuristic material, seeing the new forms of designs that are coming up.
So here is a big take point that so this whole celebration of smart cities essentially is something which I think it misses out certain critical points. It's a very technologically driven city planning approach, which has its own strengths in terms of using a checklist of materials, etc., etc. But a true smart city is an Indian city that works, where people use the city, the streets, so it's not that you plug in technology in Calcutta and it becomes smart and everything starts working and it's a great place. What is most important is people should be happy, there should be social spaces, there should be parks, there should be squares, streets are clean, there are people, it's planned for senior citizens, community spaces. So I think those programmatic aspects are key tenets of Indian cities. I think it's very important that we should, I beg to disagree by this whole blind smart city movement, because I think it's it's a great thing, and I welcome technology companies to help us in plugging in certain technologically enabled services or to program. But I feel the key understanding of Indian smart cities is good urban design, and Kolkata actually talks about good urban design, good public life, with street life. If you see Hindustan Park area or Southern Avenue or any other part of old city of Kolkata where it faces the riverfront or something, it's got credible urban design. It needs urban surgeries on that level. But just by plugging in technology here and there, it will not going to solve a problem. It can support larger physical planning, but technology at the end of the day is not going to figure out an overall solution. So I think when you're talking about pedestrianization or bicycle track or greenways or urban forestry, I think for me those are probably even more important in not only the metros but in the second tier cities, because I think the growth of India is not only in the metros but in the 24 second tier cities where the true India lies. And I think these are places which can have various sort of visionary gestures which can provide broad planning principles which make a better Indian city. I mean, I don't think I would like to promote purely a tech-driven approach which sort of completely isolates human intervention and human understanding. The greatness about Indian cities is because there's public life, city life, and there is action on the streets, and there is a certain character in the chaos. Of course, I might like my sidewalks to be a little better, and of course I might like some degree of tech-driven approach in terms of garbage collections or whether in terms of street lights and solar panels and app-based applications that cannot supersede the fundamental need of good design, good buildings, good cities, a collection of architects responding to each other. I mean, I think it's a best form of our practice is what I would call a competitive collaboration, which means that there is a positive energy in which we engage with each other. I think that's the true nature of making cities happen, and I think Kolkata has a lot of it. It's important to do some surgical intervention, clean it up, and I think the green system of Kolkata, the blue system of Kolkata, which is the canals, they are the spines of the city. They are the veins of the city. Actually, I think the Durga Puja festival, the pedestrian movements, that's the energy of the city. The celebratory nature of Kolkata belongs to such events, and I think when you overlay the cultural map with the cultural resource, with the architectural history, the blue systems, the green systems, and the energy and the enjoyment of life of people, that is the smartest thing to happen. You can't inject a sterile city, put technology in it, and people will love it. I mean, so I think we need to sort of look back and understand why Kolkata still is happy.